So I'm wondering what this means for policy. Do you want to get a $1.5 trillion defense budget into perhaps a reconciliation package? I'm wondering if there is any movement on a House GOP reconciliation bill and whether that's something that you would support.
I will support whatever it takes to defend this country. I completely agree with Lindsey Graham. What would the cost be if they had a nuclear weapon and used it against America? What will the cost be if they had long-range ballistic missiles and used it against America? So this is a good long-term investment for peace and prosperity, stability in the United States and worldwide. So yeah. I will support a defense budget, increased defense budget, and additional money, supplemental for our military.
When it comes to Iran and what's been happening with this back and forth with the White House and U.S. allies today, if U.S. allies are so crucial in reopening the Strait of Hormuz, obviously something that's critical in bringing down oil prices here in the U.S., do you believe that the White House should have coordinated with them better before starting the war with Iran?
Well, you have to remember, Europe was similar to Obama. They appeased, and that didn't work. I mean, they were getting close to a nuclear weapon. They were building ballistic missiles. If they had the ability to drop them in the United States, they would have. They put our troops are at risk. And the Strait of Hormuz is not a place where we get a lot of our oil. I mean, the fact that if I was China, I sure as heck show up. And there's other countries that are completely dependent. The United States is not dependent. We all want the price of gas to come down. I grew up in public housing. I know the price of gas is devastating for families. But I don't want to be destroyed by a nuclear weapon. I don't want to be destroyed by a ballistic missile. I don't want my family destroyed or any family in the United States. The president's doing the right thing. Let's remember why we're doing this. And we all want gas prices to come down, and they will when this crisis is over.
Yeah, but the president obviously said last summer after those strikes that it had obliterated Iran's nuclear program. He then cited that as part of his reasoning.
If it were possible to do so safely at this point, why isn't the U.S. Navy escorting ships through the strait?
I can't tell you the answer to that, but I think right now it's still a dangerous situation. It's going to take a while for us to get control over the Strait of Hormuz. The most important thing we can do right now, and our job right now, is we'd love to get gas prices back down. But the most important thing is destroy Iran's ability to, produce a nuclear weapon, destroy their military, their ballistic missile capability, and hopefully, right, we end up with a country that wants to work with the world community and not be constantly destroying through all their proxies. So, I mean, we all want gas prices to come down. Nobody wants gas prices higher. This president doesn't want gas prices higher. But we have to be realistic. If you believe that Iran was going to use nuclear weapons against us, we had no choice but to do this. And there are problems short term. It's fascinating to me that Democrats now talk about gas prices when under Obama and under Biden, they tried to destroy the U.S. oil and gas industry. So we want prices to come down. I think, unfortunately, prices are going to be up for a while until this ends. But with Venezuela coming on, with American oil and gas coming on, with hopefully a positive resolution to this conflict, then prices will come down even further.
Mr. President, you've said that Iran does want to make a deal. Now, into the third week of this bombing campaign, what would that deal look like? What are the asks that you're making of the government?
They want to make a deal. They're talking to our people. I don't know if they say that to you. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Don't forget, they are a country that for years, I didn't know this until recently, they're a country based on disinformation. And now they're using disinformation plus AI. And that's a terrible situation. That's a terrible situation. They showed all sorts of things happening in the last 2 weeks that never happened. Between their kamikaze boats that don't exist, between blowing up the aircraft carrier, one of the great ships in the world, the Abraham Lincoln, on fire. They showed it on fire. I called the general. I said, General, what's with the Abraham Lincoln? It looks like it's burning down. No, it's not burning down. Not a bullet was ever fired at it, sir. They know better. I said, this is my first glimpse of AI and what they've done with it. They showed buildings in Tel Aviv burning to the ground, high-rises burning. They showed buildings in Qatar They showed buildings in Saudi Arabia burning, and they weren't burning. They weren't hit. It was all AI-based. Terrible. It's terrible. And I think that's the only thing they do well. They're negotiating, and we always talk. When, somebody said, well, would you talk? Why would you even talk to them? I talk to everybody because sometimes good things come out of it. But I don't know if they're ready yet. They're taking a pounding. I don't know if they're ready yet. And we don't even know their leaders. Look, all of their leaders are dead, as far as we know. But they're all dead. We don't know who we're dealing with. We knocked out the first group. Then the second group met, 88 met to pick the leader because the first group was all dead.
So the ghoul known as Rick Scott, who should be in prison for ripping off Medicare, the likes to which this country had never seen at the time. Did never forget that. He's going around making the rounds saying that actually it's a good thing that we're bombing Iran and we're losing the war. He's not going to admit to that, but he's going around trying to convince people that actually this is a good thing. We're doing so well that Donald Trump and his administration are literally threatening to eliminate broadcasts to tell the truth about the Iran war and the fact that we're not doing so well and that the rest of the world is really not all that anxious to help us out in doing what we shouldn't have done. There's a reason that previous administrations refused to attack Iran. And then when he says, well, what would the cost have been if they had nuclear weapons? Well, the cost would be that we never would have invaded them in the first place. As I point out all the time, the only reason North Korea still exists is because they have nuclear weapons, and if anybody invades them, they're going to use it. It's okay for us to have thousands of nuclear warheads. And mind you, there are a variety of other nations in the world that have nuclear weapons, but we're the only ones who've ever used them. And never ever forget that the war was already over when we did. You see, in America, we try to spread the narrative that, it's the nuclear weapons that ended the World War II. But no, the war was already over. Russia won the war. We basically just did it as revenge for Pearl Harbor and to use the Japanese people as test subjects. And while NATO and everybody else is refusing to help Donald Trump open the Straits of Hormuz, this is what he posted on Truth Social in response to that. He said,
because of the fact that we have had such military success, we no longer need or desire the NATO countries' assistance. We never did.
Like when a guy tries to, go to the dance with a girl and she rejects him. And he's like, well, I didn't want to go with you anyway. You're ugly anyway. You're fat anyway. I mean, this whole thing is a joke. Unfortunately, lives have already been lost. There is a lot at stake. The world economy is going to continue to crumble because of this buffoon and Netanyahu's pipe dream of a greater Israel. But go ahead, Rick Scott. Continue to tell people that this, in fact, is a good thing and that we all should be on board with it, even though the truth never, ever stays hidden for long.